Alright guys, welcome back to another video. I'm Zachary Ireland, and this is my YouTube channel where I talk about real estate, finance, investing, insurance, all financial sorts of topics, and the occasional reaction video like this one. So today we'll be reacting to a video by Dolf de Roos. He calls himself the king of commercial real estate on Facebook. Actually, I haven't looked for him on other platforms, but I'm sure he is out there trying to get signups for his very special real estate courses. I just could not bring myself to sign up for his email list, but that might be something we do in the future. So this isn't a gotcha. This isn't like exposing, the king of commercial real estate on Facebook. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I am trying to do is educate my viewers, educate my audience. You come back to the channel because you want good information and you want to learn about real estate investing, where we are in Sudbury, Ontario. So let's play the first part of the video. This one's called The Tenant is Everything, and we will react to it.
The tenant is everything when it comes to commercial real estate. Just as it's possible to increase the value of a property, it's easy to find low-cost deals with huge potential upsides. What do we mean by that?
So first of all, he says the tenant is everything. And for the most part, I would agree with this. The reason you buy a commercial building, and I'm more going to apply it to residential and assume that he's also talking about residential. But the reason you buy residential properties is for the tenants, or for the tenants you could get. So this is a really helpful paradigm when you're shopping for real estate, especially rental properties, is look at the way the tenants live right now and look at the state of the apartment, the state of repair, the neighborhood, things like this, the city itself, what's the profile of the city that you're buying in, and you'll start to understand who the tenant is that you are renting to. And in the case of a vacant building, it's important to go see other buildings, like I've mentioned in other videos, see a handful of buildings and start to understand the tenant that you should be getting or the tenant that you will be getting, and understand what the rents are that they would pay. So really cool right off the bat. Seems like, he's giving good advice here.
We mean find a vacant building or one that's only semi-tenanted. You will buy it at a cheap price because the rent is low and therefore the value is low.
Okay, so this is where I diverge a little bit because he's obviously in a different market than ours. But in the Sudbury market, we have a perpetual rental property shortage. There aren't enough apartments to rent at the price people are willing to rent them. And one of the reasons that is because we have rent control. So one of the problems, or one of the obstacles, I would say, not problems, but one of the obstacles to real estate investing here is the limit on rent increases over time and the inability to evict a tenant easily. I would say easily. There are ways to do it. It's just not easy to do it like it would be in, more landlord-friendly markets, Western Canada, for example. So what that means, in essence, is in Ontario, tenants have quite a few rights. And one of the rights is they can stay in a property. As long as they're paying, they can stay in a property indefinitely. So even when the lease expires on a property, they have the right to go month to month and just continue on renting the property at the same price with very small price increases. Just for example, the 2021 approved price increase, this is set by the Canadian federal government, was 1%, or maybe I lied. Maybe that's fake news. It could be the Ontario provincial government who sets the rent increase, but it is based on the CPI, Consumer Price Index. But they also like to spice it up with their own view of the world. So if they think renters are paying too much, they might limit that rent increase, which is what they did last year. And it's turning into a major disaster because there are so many people who want to rent at the current prices, but there aren't enough available. So if you read Thomas Sowell, Basic Economics, or Applied Economics, he actually specifically talks about rent control. And one of the interesting side effects of rent control is it creates shortages. So when I say there's a rental property shortage, what I really mean is there's a shortage at the price people are willing to pay. So right now, and this is kind of the nature of why I brought in rent control, is we have many people who stay in an apartment for a long time. And then when that building goes to change hands, it's still being priced, or at least it should still be priced, with that rent in mind. So if it's a duplex, let's say one of the apartments is freshly renovated, rented for a good rent. The other one is 20 years old, not been renovated, and the tenant has been there for 20 years, paying a very, very low rent. Should that building be priced at market, as if both tenants have the rent that's market for their apartment? Well, the truth is it should be priced according to the income, but it won't. It most likely will be priced somewhere in between that rock bottom price of where it should be and the market price of where it would be if both tenants were paying full market rent. So what that creates is an interesting dilemma where you have a tenant who's paying a very low rent, basically living for free, and a tenant who's paying all of the bills at a higher rent in a very similar living situation. Just because the one tenant was there for a long time, they have many rights, they don't have to leave. They might cycle through, several owners of that building. So when Dolf says, your tenant is everything, he's correct. And in the example that I'm giving of a duplex, you're buying that tenant essentially. And unless you're willing to make a deal with that person, which is something I could talk to you about on the phone, we can, exchange ideas on how to do that. Because just for example, at a 5% cap rate, and the math is pretty solid on this, but at a 5% cap rate, adding $200 of free rent increase raises the valuation of the property by about $50,000. So to just do the quick math on that, I think I have my cell phone on me. Yeah, let's do this live. I'll put it on the screen as well. But so the way cap rate works is the net operating income, right? So let's just imagine the building was making 0 net operating income and we boosted it to 200 per month of more operating income. So we would take the 200, we'd multiply it by 12 months of the year. So that'd be $2,400 of net operating income. And then we multiply that by the cap rate. So the way I do that is divide it by 0.05 for a 5% cap rate. And we're left with $48,000. So just about 50 grand, like I said, just by raising the rent by $200 per month. If you're pricing the property correctly, if you're pricing it according to, in the Sudbury market, actually cap rates, to be fair, cap rates are closer to 7.5, even 8% in rougher areas. So if you were to take that number, $2,400, divided by 0.07 for a 7% cap rate, you're looking at about $34,200 valuation increase to the property. So, if you were to imagine a scenario where you talk to the tenant and explain to them, yeah, I really need to increase the rent, would you be willing to do that for, if you received something in return? Or would you be willing to move out, go to another apartment, and I can rent it to someone else who's willing to pay that higher rate? How much money would you accept in order to do that? That's what we call a cash for keys deal. In this case, $34,000 is essentially the value of that deal. Now, the only way that could kind of work, and I'm kind of getting to the weeds here, but the only way that could kind of work is if the property is priced such that the cap rate right now actually reflects the price. So, this happens actually pretty often where an owner says, well, it seems like rentals are in demand, I'll sell my building. It's not been upcapped, the rents are low, but they want to sell it for like a 5% cap rate. The reason they want a 5% cap rate is because they're thinking price per unit, or they're thinking, the value of the physical value of the building rather than pricing it based on its income. Because 5% cap rate on an old rundown building is just unreasonable, right? Unless there's a ton of rent to be had. If those tenants are cycled through, if new rents are brought in, higher rents are brought in. Like I just showed you the numbers, right? If you were able to raise $200 in a fourplex you're looking at almost a $200,000 increase in valuation. At a 7% cap rate, you're looking at over $100,000 increased valuation of that property. So you might be willing to pay a 5% cap rate for that stabilized cash cap rate for the property, knowing that within several months or a year, because of some deals you're able to broker with the client, with the tenants, you're able to get the valuation of the property up, maybe refinance once you get new tenants in with higher rents. So let's finish the video, see what Dolf has to say.
But if we can figure out a way of getting a bigger or better tenant, or a tenant where there was none before, then suddenly the value of the building goes through the roof.
100%, yeah. So like I just said, the value of the property will increase. There isn't a scenario that I can think of where you would buy a property, get new tenants paying a significantly higher rent, and the value of the property would stay the same. I can't think of a scenario where that would happen. Like, any mortgage broker worth their salt would look at the differential and say, on the market right now, it seems like you did this work to it, you got new tenants in, I think the valuation has bumped up X. So there isn't really a scenario where, buying a building, putting new tenants in, getting higher rents is going to backfire on you. The scenario that, lots of people like to kind of talk is nightmare tenants, difficult tenants that, aren't paying rent or decide to trash the place or any other number of terrible things that they could do. That's why it's great to have a property manager. And that brings us to one of the purposes of making these videos. One, it's just to educate people for free. I think it's important to give back. We've had success. It's important to give back. But the other reason is to educate people on their options in property management. So right now, our company does hands-off property management. We will find tenants, vet tenants, do credit checks, employment verification, income verification, pay stubs, things like that. And look at if they can afford the apartment first. Have they always paid their bills on time in the past? And that will give us a pretty good idea if they will continue to do that. So we've outsourced that project from you, the landlord, to us, the property managers. It's very affordable. And the great thing about it is you have that stabilized cash flow. You know what's coming in each month. Property management takes care of the rest. So if you're doing this from halfway across the world in Fiji, doesn't matter, on a beach drinking Mai Tais, it does not matter. Property management will be taking care of it, sending you emails to give you updates once in a while, and the money will be deposited in your account each month. So if you are looking to buy real estate, definitely reach out to me, Zachary Ireland. You can check the description for our website to get in touch if you'd like to do that. And just to recap here, talked about the king of commercial real estate, Dolf. Roos. I'll probably be doing more of these videos because he's kind of fun to react to. This one actually wasn't too bad, but hopefully it was, a conversation starter. Got my foot in the door to explain a few things, cash for keys and things like that. And that's about it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.